So I originally started recording my rides, well, because I kept seeing a lot of crazy things, but and the assumption that one day I was going to crash and maybe the video would be valuable or at least interesting to share. But the other reason I started thinking maybe it's worth just giving tips here and there on how to actually ride through traffic like this. So there are a lot of things, there's too much to actually talk about in even a dozen riding videos, but in California you can split lanes, and once you're comfortable enough, you're definitely going to be splitting lanes, right? Because screw this, who wants to actually wait in this? And you don't have to, but it's risky, right? There are a lot of things that could go wrong, and your job is to minimize, I'll say minimize because I don't think you can eliminate risk. There's so many possibilities, but there are a lot of very common things that happen that you can actually prevent or avoid. And you know, if you watch enough crash videos on YouTube, cars, bikes, whatever, they're usually a result of people going too fast for the situation, where sure, you can go safely, you know, Mach 1 through the center of these cars, except you don't have any way to predict whether someone's going to pop out and kill your ass. You have to go as slow, you have to go the speed that allows you to see far enough ahead to avoid things that are going to hurt you, and be able to avoid the things you can plan for. So, you know, that's really the limiting factor. You want to be safe. You want accident avoidance and predictability. You want to be able to predict where somebody's going to go or where you can go if something happens. So that's the first thing. Don't go too fast. And on a bike, what you're going to find, of course, is that all you want to do is go really fast. And there's a time and a place, but pushing it through something like this may get you home, you know, a minute faster, maybe a couple minutes. But your risk goes up tremendously. So the first thing that I do is make sure I'm going the speed that allows me to look, say, 4 cars up, and I basically scan left or right every car, and I'm watching for obviously how much room you have to go through. So you don't want to tap a mirror, especially on your right side, right? You don't want to tap your front brake lever and do a front flip between these cars. But also, you're looking for signs that someone is going to switch lanes, and in this kind of traffic, it's a lot safer, right? Because everyone is going really slow, they're settled in, nobody really needs to switch lanes, and a lot of people don't want to or even care, you know. You'll smell a lot of weed, people smoking weed out here. That's how much time they have, man. It's like, I need to get my glaucoma medicine in now before I get home. So, the other thing I'm looking for, well, when traffic's a little looser, but it's always a factor, is cars that are side by side versus staggered. If they're staggered, there's room for someone to switch lanes, right? They're going to go between cars, but if they're side by side, you're much safer. Now, you can never predict for that one idiot who's going to do something stupid, and you could get squeezed out, but that's not supposed to happen. Side note, that's actually when you're going to get in your accident, because someone's going to do something that wasn't supposed to be done. That's how I crashed. The typical, someone turns left in front of you, which is why freeway riding, in my mind, is much safer than actually driving through city streets. So keep an eye on that. The other thing happens is, well, you'll be splitting lanes and you'll come up on a gap like this on my left, and in order to protect yourself, I actually a lot of times will try and get into the middle of that lane, just in case anybody wants to switch lanes into it. I will already have that space buffer, and then I'll be able to weave, hopefully swerve. And people will give you hints too. If they're really close to the dotted line here, either they're just driving wide or they're signaling in their brain because they want to get over, and they're making a move before they're actually committing to the move. You see that a lot, right? People will, you know their exit's coming up and they're going to try and get in that lane because they're kind of leaning that way. And I'm also looking at rear view mirrors. You can't see it in the dark, but in the daytime, if you can see people's eyes in the mirrors and you get some idea of their intention. And then you're scanning for movement, right? Because you can react to someone just starting to turn the wheel. If you get the feeling they're starting to move, you'd be like a cat, reflexes. And one other tip, I always hover over my rear brake coming through this stuff. And I don't know, I'm sure you'll be told don't hover the brakes. I definitely don't hover over the front brake, but my rear brake, I can tap that thing super fast before I can even grip my front brake. So I use it as to increase my response time, or decrease, so that at least I can begin braking, and eventually I can get on that front brake and I can stop quickly. And the problem with going too fast, of course, is that well, obviously you can't slow down as quickly, but if you need to do any sort of weaving maneuver, if you're on the throttle or you're moving too quickly, it's going to be a lot harder to move that bike. I've seen, like, Harley guys in particular, they got those big ape hangers and giant mirrors and things. I have a video of this. I don't know if I put it up yet. You know, hell, maybe I'll throw a link in there. Where their mirrors are so wide and they've got these saddlebags and things that they can't just zip straight through. They've got to do a lot of handlebar work to maneuver around this stuff. And that's just, that's crazy. I mean, you got to do it on the bike, I guess. But if you got to do too much work, you're out of control, or you're not able to respond to what you need to respond to. And then you'll if you ride the same roads a lot, you'll start to see the patterns. Like this area up here, it's like this every day. You know, it's real heavy, and then we're gonna go downhill and start to curve to the right. And during that curve to the right, the left lane goes a little bit faster, and it has openings, and people like to move into that because eventually they're going to have to get into the exit lane for the next the interchange coming up. So you can be conscious of that. You can prepare for that. You need to make sure you're not going too fast because there's a lot of flux, right? There's a lot of opportunity. People move around and you know they're going to. See, look at all this space here. Makes me real nervous. This is another one of those examples where I don't want to go flying through here. Another thing that happens when you're hauling ass is that someone may actually do the right thing. They'll look in their mirror, they'll look over their shoulders, and they'll see that they're clear, and then they'll make their move. And in that space of time, when they look and it's clear, and then they make their move, you actually show up. Totally unexpected, right? So you can't blame them too much if you're going too fast.